In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Carnor Jax and Kir Kanos from the comic book pack based upon their appearance from Crimson Empire. So this comic book pack is actually one of the first ones as part of the revitalized line back in the day. It was actually released around the end of 2006. And I say revitalized because a lot of people tend to forget that during the Shadows of the Empire days back in 1996, we got a comic book line at that time. So about 10 years later, it was revitalized, and of course, these are the comic book packs that we're very familiar with. And this is a great way to start it off. I've never actually read the graphic novel Crimson Empire, but I have listened to an audiobook version of it, and I thought it was a fantastic story for the expanding universe. I loved every part of it, and I think it still holds up really well today. As far as the action figures are concerned, great addition to the Hasbro Star Wars line. I think Carnor Jax and Kir Kanos are very iconic for the expanding universe, and for the figures themselves, they're great to have for any collection. So I actually got this set for about $40 on eBay around 2017. It's just $40 in free shipping, which I thought was a pretty good deal for this at the time. And I happened to look up the price of what this used to cost back in 2006, and it was only $11.99 at the time. I do recall seeing this in stores. I don't think this was one that sold through really quickly. I distinctively recall going to a lot of the major retailers at the time and seeing this pack. Unfortunately, at the time I was just a kid, so you don't really have the money to spend, and no one's just going to flat out buy it for you on whim, that is. And so unfortunately I missed out on this pack back in the day. But I'm glad to have it for my collection now. The Imperial Guards are some of my favorite action figures to collect, and you have to have the head of the Imperial Guard and one of his top rivals in that collection, don't you think? But anyways, let's go ahead and get started taking a look at this comic book here first. Very nice image of Carnor Jax and Kir Kanos there. This is issue number 6. Really like that artwork. That's something that I'd be interested in wanting to draw someday. So we have show the back here first, Dark Horse Comics. Some pretty interesting stories as well. Conan the Barbarian is actually one of my favorite movies, the 1982 version that is. Hellboy's pretty good as well. So most of this comic book here is centered around one specific scene, mostly a duel between Carnor Jax and Kir Kanos here. Show off some of the artwork here. Really like this art. They did a very nice job with this. So in case you didn't know, Carnor Jax was the head of the Imperial Guard, and it's nice that he has that distinctive black armor about him to distinguish him. And Kir Kanos, I'm not sure exactly what his position is, but he was basically Carnor Jax's main rival. And outside of Crimson Empire, another good way to dive into their story a little bit is there is a campaign in the Thrawn's Revenge mod for Empire at War that dives into it a little bit. Not sure if too much of the backstory, if Carnor Jax was trying to become the new Emperor per se, but at least in the Thrawn's Revenge campaign, that seems to be what it's alluding to. There's a little Sankhya there. Stan Azard's former Super Star Destroyer. Supposed to be Wedge Antilles here. So like I said, I've only listened to the audiobook of this, but I know enough of the story and have heard enough to make an assumption on it, and I would highly recommend getting this one in your collection. I know the graphic novel itself is extremely expensive these days because it's out of print, but if you can find this book, rather an audiobook or the actual print, I would highly recommend it. One of the best stories of the expanding universe. Not sure who this crew is, the Trandoshan and the woman here. Mirth, I suppose. And Sadit. I'll have to read more about them. So another final duel between Carnor Jax and Kir Kanos here. And you see Carnor Jax is defeated. And he is killed. A little memorial for him. Even though they were rivals, I still think Kir Kanos had a lot of respect for Carnor Jax. Interesting bit of information about them as well. I'm pretty sure, not sure about Kir Kanos, but at least Carnor Jax was force sensitive in a way. I don't know if he could command the force like a normal Jedi could, but you could at least channel its energy through him to help with his duels. And there's the ending. And a small advertisement for the Fire Speeder pilot. I recall seeing this a lot back in the day. I do have this Fire Speeder pilot. I think it's a very underrated action figure. And it was released during the Saga Collection days back in 2006. And he'll get a review eventually as well. If you blinked, you missed him. And indeed, that is the case. So last comic book. Now let's take a look at the action figures themselves. Start with Carnor Jax here. So I'm pretty sure there is a variant to these two action figures, and the difference between the two is one has or between the two, for the variant, there is a clear visor for both of them. Mine is not a clear visor. I think you can kind of see his eyes in there a little bit. But his is more of a reddish visor, and Kir Kanos is more black. So something to look out for. I don't think I've ever seen a variant in person before, but I have seen a couple variants of it online. So a couple things I really like about this action figure is I love the flow of his cape, and it's a very thick material too. It's not that typical extremely thin and frayed cloth that Hasbro uses these days for most of their action figures. It's a very thick material, and it feels like it's going to last forever. And for being a 17-year-old action figure at this point, it's not frayed too much at the ends. There's a little bit there, but it's not too bad. Much better than a lot of action figures these days. And I think the flow of it is appropriate. It's the right cut, and I like how it looks. So both action figures are utilizing the same exact parts, same body, same accessories, same everything. The only differences is the paint, obviously, and the head underneath. That I'll show you here in a second. It's that nice black armor there. And for the body, it's just utilizing the same exact body that was used in the Revenge of the Sith line with the Senate Guard and the Royal Guard. And also the Force Unleashed Shadow Guard that was released in 2008 is utilizing the same body. So in terms of the articulation, he does have a ball joint at the neck there. Pretty good range of motion for a removable helmet there. He does have hinged shoulders, very good range of motion. He does have swivel elbows. A lot of people don't like that, but I think it's okay for this action figure. He also has swivel forearms, no articulation in the waist, which I think he could have benefited greatly from. And then he does have swivel hips and hinged knees and nothing in the ankles. So the articulation is mostly good. I think it would have benefited them having some ankle articulation and some waist articulation, but it's alright. terms of weapons and accessories, he comes with this staff that we saw with the Vintage Collection Emperor's Royal Guard. I'm pretty sure it's about the same exact thing. If there's any differences, it's the paint and maybe the size is slightly off. And he has very good detailing in the grip there. Pretty soft plastic. And also because this is utilizing tooling from another action figure, they just kept the holster on his right hip there, and it came with the Scout Trooper blaster that we've seen with so many action figures over the years. And even to this day, we still get this blaster. But nothing too much to say about that. It does fit in his holster pretty well. Then, of course, for the last part, his removable helmet here, which I think looks pretty good for Carnor Jax. Very nice paint detailing. Hasbro did a pretty good job with it. You can take this cape off too if you want. You just pop the head off and then pull it off. I've never done it, and I don't think he needs to. And his helmet here is a pretty soft plastic. It's durable enough to where it doesn't feel like it's going to break on you. And it fits on his head pretty good, and it's a tight enough fit to hold. So that's Carnor Jax. Now we'll take a look at Kir Kanos here. Basically the same exact action figure, just some paint differences and a different head. So one thing I like about Kir Kanos a lot more is the detail on his armor. I think stands out a lot more. It almost looks like he has a six-pack going on with his armor there. And you don't really see that so much on Carnor Jax's black armor. Other than that, same body. Same exact articulation as well. Has the hinge or the ball joint at the neck, and then the hinge shoulders, the swivel elbows, which again I think is perfectly fine for this action figure. Then he does have the swivel forearms there, nothing in the waist, swivel hips, and hinge knees, and that's all. The flow of his cape here, pretty good as well. I think this does feel like it's a little bit of a lighter or a thinner material compared to Carnor Jax's cape. And the weapons and accessories are the same exact thing. The staff here, it's used more for training than the Scout Trooper blaster right there on the hip. And of course the removable helmet. I will point out with the helmet first, like I mentioned with the variant, I'm pretty sure there is a variant out there of Kir Kanos with the, it's just a clear visor there. But this is really good head sculpt. I think it's mostly faithful to Kir Kanos. He does have a scar there, which looks really nice. And pretty good head sculpt and good paint detailing. And it fits on his head snug as well. Give you one last look at Carnor Jax here. And other than that, that's all there is I can really tell you about these action figures. Like I said, I think it's one of the best comic book packs that Hasbro released, and it was the first one as part of the revitalized comic book era. And I think it's a fantastic way to start it off. So it is a little bit of a pricey set. Like I said, I got this for $40 free shipping, which is a more on the cheaper end of the spectrum from what I see this pack go to. You might be able to find this in the $30 or $40 range. And I did get this set brand new as well. But you might be lucky enough to find it brand new or even loose in the $30 or $40 range. Oftentimes, though, I have seen the set go maybe $50, $60, or $70. But regardless, I think it's a very nice set and it's worthy for any collection, and I highly recommend it. So I think they're essential characters for any collection, and especially if you are a fan of the expanding universe. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more reviews in the future. There will be plenty more to come. And if you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate your support. And check out the Instagram link in the description as well. More content will be posted on that. And thanks for watching.